right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Ivery, and I am a dual degree student who studied film animation video and CS. All right, I will. Okay. So the two disciplines are usually thought of as being quite different. One is seen as pretty technical, rigid, strict, and the other one is seen as more creative and freeing. But during my time here, I've come to find more similarities between them than I have found differences. My brain works in similar ways when I approach a creative project and when I approach a CS project, and the line between the two gets blurry sometimes. Both mediums present endless possibilities and can be used to create powerful, immersive experiences, and that's exactly what drew me to them. To paint a picture of what I am talking about, one day I was staring at a page in a book while sitting in class, bored. As I continued to stare, words turned into bricks in my mind, and an ink drop turned into a moving cursor that fell through the bricks. I came up with this idea of a game where you can move your cursor and collect words to form poetry, and you get a score from it. I thought to myself, wouldn't this be a cool game? And a couple of days later, there it was. Another time, I wondered what the surrealist painter Magritte would do if he had access to VR technology. As you can see, you can switch between the view of a painting of a window versus an actual window, wallpaper of clouds versus actual clouds. I chose to talk about these two sprint projects instead of the other longer CS projects that I've worked on because these demonstrate to me the things that I can now create only because of my experiences in both disciplines. An understanding of design, 3D, and coding interaction. It's the combination of these experiences that allowed me to make random thought experiments like these into reality. In some ways, these are just random fun projects I've worked on, but the more I've thought about them, the more I've come to understand that it's exactly fun projects like these that keep me going, keep me engaged, and curious to learn more. So I must admit that this is a picture of CIT that I rented out. I must admit that learning CS was not easy for me at first. But making fun projects like the ones I mentioned made CS less intimidating and motivated me to keep going even when it was hard. I distinctly remember struggling through my first CS class at Brown, CS 111, Introduction to Data Structures and Algorithms. At first, I just couldn't quite wrap my head around reversing a doubly linked list or just the idea of recursion. So I was pleasantly surprised when a semester later, I found myself on the other end of the office hours room as a TA explaining concepts and ending up TAing the class for the entire year. It was through helping others that I got to understand the material better and gained confidence in the field. While students leaned on me to learn, I leaned on them to keep myself accountable. It was a very rewarding experience, and the sense of community I found there encouraged me to take on other CS department jobs, where I learned more about computer science outside of my classes. For example, I learned how to make robots dance while working at Stephanie Telex's robotics lab with Cindy Skybutter. I learned how to work with WebAR on a NASA gig with Kimberly Arkand and Tom Seguros, and became interested in AR/VR technology and its power of storytelling through margin. I helped build the web AR authoring tool HoloScreen at the Human Computer Interaction Lab with Jeff Huang and Jiwon Chung, and 3D Pro, which is a sketches to 3D tool that I made that facilitates and speed up 3D model creation. So our initial prototype is that you can hold up an image of a sketch and then it just turns it into an extruded 3D model instantaneously. That was very exciting to me because, as some of you might know, I'm a 3D artist. I'll talk about that later. So all of these different experiences, I realized that learning CS is the most fun when it's a group experience. I'm very fortunate to have my class buddies in CS, and a lot of learning, happiness, chaos, desperation, and most of all, memories has come from those 3 AM study sessions in the CIT and in the Nelson Center, where we thought we'd never make it out there alive. Never take a CS class without class friends. Trust me, it helps a lot. So that's the CS part, but how I got into animation, the process is a little more complicated. Prior to college, I had an interest in making videos. I animated science videos to explain certain concepts in physics, such as this one. I would always do photo shoots with my friends with my dad's camera. And so freshman year, it felt like joining the Brown Motion Pictures Club at Brown was a natural continuation of that process. During my time in the club, I fell in love with the collaborative process of filmmaking. For my first film, Poached, I was a director of cinematography. I distinctly remember running down Lincoln Woods with a giant Blackmagic 4K, making a not-so-great movie with some great friends. The second time around, the friends were still great, but the movie was a whole bunch better. I made a transition away from live-action filmmaking to animation during COVID. During the pandemic, it was hard to get actors together for filming for obvious reasons. Animation, on the other hand, allows for full control over the final outcome, down to the pixels. You can truly make whatever you want. So I started off with 2D animation, and freshman year created a collaborative project with an AI startup founder. He asked me to make a collage animation, and I had a lot of fun. It was very rewarding, but also extremely time-consuming. Here is another example of a 2D animation I made sophomore year. And so after a series of these 2D experiments, I ended up switching to 3D animation, where I really found my community and passion, and it's the place where I discovered the intersection between CS and film. In 2021, I took Barbara Meyer's computer animation classes. In this class, I learned that while there is a lot of use of fundamental algorithms that I learned in CS classes, there is a whole field where people specifically just code for visual storytelling. That was truly fascinating to me. From talking to my professors and others, I found that there is one place in the world full of nerds like that, and that was Pixar. And I wanted to be one of those nerds. But first, I had to beef up my portfolio to get there. I spent the next 2 years creating anything I could within the intersection of 3D and CS. It ranged from games, Unity projects with the Brown RISD game design, Brown RISD space design. I took computer graphics, which is a complementary skill set to computer animation, which is learning about how programs like Blender and Maya, the tools that I use every day, how they actually work. I made 3D films like this one, Homesick for Another World. I also spent a whole summer working on building an end-to-end educational VR app from the ground up for Bayer Pharmaceuticals. I learned how to assemble a drone along the way as well. I made all of the assets in that you can see here. I scripted the interaction. I interviewed users to design this immersive and simulated experience that can save a ton of time and resources for drone flyers across the globe. I was fascinated by mixed reality and its ability to make believe, which is exactly what film sets out to do. And yet the mixed reality has so many different applications in education, also in entertainment. So I remember, after all of that, finally getting the offer from Pixar when I was on the bus in Miami during spring break. I cried a little bit. It felt like a dream come true. It felt like I could finally work alongside with people who would spend years working on the same rig for an octopus just to make it right. Shout out to Finding Dory. These people were obsessed, and this obsession was completely inspiring to me. My summer at Pixar was truly a once-in-a-lifetime experience. We created the first ever stylized animation in the history of the Pixar undergraduate program during our internship. I would like to show a clip, but unfortunately, password protected. My time there, I was starstruck by meeting all of the directors and lighting DPs of my dreams, and it was so fun just working on shaders and working with other people towards one single visual outcome. The film was awesome. But post-Pixar, I started thinking about other things. I longed to make my own films again. I was equipped with the technical skills and the visual skills that I needed to make something that was truly my own. My senior film is, as you can see here, it's called Monday, is made in Blender. It is inspired by my memories of growing up in China. And in it, stylized scenes are shown as a child talks about breaking out of a rigorous routine of classes and piano practice. The style is painterly, similar to my old gouache paintings and aesthetically close to Chinese dreamcore and surrealism. The idea of breaking out of one's routine appears to be a common theme in many of my other films too. One such film was the film I pitched and created 3 years ago in computer animation called Off Track, where a robot falls out of the train he works on and forms an unexpected friendship with bunnies. Another was Elevated, in which a mountain goat longs to be back in the wild instead of working his job in San Francisco. In Messenger, a girl who bikes along the same bike path every day finally decides to stop by a house for the first time and also forms an unexpected friendship. Messenger is also my first 3D film made specifically to look like 2D sketches that I have made, because my junior animation professor, Max Porter, encouraged me to make films that would look uniquely like my own, that only I would be able to make them. But going back to all these films, I guess I could say that I really relate to these characters to some extent. Whenever I'm just coding, I long for making films and vice versa. And for my thesis film Monday, I created my own shader that made stylized scenes. I'm happy with the look of the film, but I know that I have a long way to go as a filmmaker. Through the support of my thesis instructors, Amy Kravitz, Ace Cartel, and Christy Caracas, I finally feel like I know how to tackle a year-long project, which is to get started as soon as you can, fail as early as you can, and iterate as much as you can, which is strikingly similar to how I approach building software in general. I'm excited to continue working on storytelling skills, and my next film will be an episodic film featuring characters and dialogues in the style of journal entries and internal thoughts, documenting moments of extreme yet fleeting emotions through the medium of animation. Now that I'm graduating, looking past Brown and RISD, my career is going to involve a lot of coding and not a lot of film, for now. But in my free time, I like to continue working on films, not just because I'm interested in both CS and animation, but because they are really quite similar disciplines, and my approach and efforts can be shared between them. If CS was hard work that only showed fruition after a long time, film created a creative high that allows me to keep going. I'm excited to see all these disciplines interact, and although some projects may seem irrelevant and random right now, something my mother always says is that nothing is irrelevant, nothing is wasted, and no effort is futile. Like a true dual degree, I plan on living my life this way. It may take us longer to pursue 2 things at the same time to fill both buckets at once, but for me, it might be the only way I can fill either of them. I have to thank my parents for supporting me through this program and the program itself for providing this unique opportunity and access to both campuses. The access to experts in their own fields and the fact that I was allowed to constantly shift between I want to be a filmmaker so bad and I want to be a developer so bad is truly a privilege to have, as I got to experience the lives of not 1 but 2 individuals. What really matters is maximizing your time, energy, potential, trying out all of the what ifs, and figuring out who you are in the process. And I definitely got to do that in the past 5 years. And lastly, I want to say that there are a lot of things in life that can pull us in different directions, whether it is job security or other responsibilities. And I have personally experienced that, spending hundreds of hours of coding interviews, take-home assessments, applying to more than 500 jobs just this recruiting season alone, and hundreds each year prior. But of course, these things are very important, and for some of us, it's essential and unavoidable. And although it is time-consuming, I value those experiences equally. After a long year of recruitment, finally, in June, I'll be flying to Mountain View to pursue UX engineering. To me, it is important to remember to keep following the things that fascinate us and allow ourselves to be fascinated. It is a program that constantly reminds me that my purpose in my work is to inspire and to create awe, the same awe that I felt the first time I put on a VR headset, standing over a tall tower and feeling vertigo standing in my own kitchen. Or the first time I watched a breakdown of Finding Dory and how the rigs were working. Or the first time I saw the walls of Gwen's bedroom melt into watercolor to reflect her sadness in the animated movie Across the Spider-Verse. We should all strive to recreate and be the thing that might inspire others like it did inspire us. And if there is more than one path we wish to go on, we can work in parallel and continue to live life like a dual degree. Thank you.